The White Witch is one of the most captivating villains in all of Disney live-action history. Narnia was one of my favourite films as a child, and it's actually one of my favourite films as an adult. I watch it every winter. I think this film is beautifully executed, from the incredibly deep and really quite adult story to the stunning costumes. In this video, I'm going to be exploring why Tilda Swinton was perfect to play the White Witch, deep diving a little into her features and how you might see some aspects from the White Witch's costume in Tilda Swinton's own style. My name is Ellie-Jean, I'm a body types enthusiast, and I help women become their dream selves with style. I'm also the author of this book, How to Dress Your Best, which is available to order in the description. This would make a wonderful Christmas present for your mum, your sister, your best friend, or yourself. I go through various aspects of finding your style, from finding what you love to what looks good on you, to putting it all together and actually curating a wardrobe and outfits that work for you. Tilda Swinton is known for her kind of androgynous, avant-garde style. She tends to wear sharp, tailored outfits, and she's kind of become a bit of an icon for going out of the kind of typical wear for a Hollywood actress. She explores a different kind of femininity, which a lot of people really enjoy. These kind of styles look particularly amazing on her because of her narrow, long, straight body type. The structure of her typical outfits echo the sharpness in her bone structure and in her frame, as well as honouring her long lines. And again, that kind of fitted, structured feel works for the narrowness in her silhouette. Tilda is so perfect for the role of the White Witch in Narnia because of her mix of dramatic and ethereal essences. She has very sharp yet otherworldly features. You will often see villains cast with dramatic essence. Dramatic is essentially having lots of sharp lines in your bone structure and facial details. It creates a kind of strong, powerful, intense look. So lots of your favourite villains will have this essence. Ethereal is in some ways the opposite, but the features often overlap. You'll often find someone with ethereal also having dramatic. This essence is otherworldly. It's also known as angelic. Essentially, in Tilda's case, is created by having kind of elongated facial features and large, soft eyes. She shares features with kind of our depiction of what we imagine angels will look like. So if you see an angel statue, she has very similar facial features. One of my favourite videos on ethereal essence comes from a creator called Marian Style. And she talks about the different kinds of ethereal features, one of these being kind of almost alien looking, and I think this one really applies to Tilda. She looks so otherworldly, she looks like she could play a creature from another planet, for instance. And I believe she has actually played an angel as well. This otherworldly beauty can make us uncomfortable. It creates a kind of uncanny valley effect, not with all ethereals, but I think definitely in Tilda's case, where you look almost a little beyond human, and that also really adds when creating like a villain character. Her low contrast also really adds to her ethereal angelic look. So all of these features I think come together to make her a really good casting for the White Witch, where she's got this kind of untraditional beauty. She's got lots of sharpness in her features, which kind of adds that intensity and power and dangerous look of that you kind of want in a villain. And she has those otherworldly features which work really, really well for a fantasy film. I love her costumes in Narnia. I feel that she really is an embodiment of snow. It's like she was created within the snow, as if she's a product of it. The White Queen in Narnia is based off a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. It was one that I grew up with. It was one of my favourites as a child. In the original story, a boy called Kai gets a shard of a kind of magic mirror in his eye that makes him look at the world with a kind of evil feeling, kind of through a veil of ugliness. And he stumbles upon a sleigh with a snow queen driving it. She kisses him and makes him forget all about his friend Gerda. Eventually, Gerda goes on a sort of quest to find Kai. She comes to the Snow Queen's palace. She finds him and she saves him. It's very Narnia-like. I think you can very much read Edmund as a kind of Kai character, Lucy as Gerda. There's also lots of other, like C.S. Lewis was very, very Christian, so there's lots of Christian imagery in the story, obviously with Aslan. It's just got so many layers. I really, really love this story. So, how do the costumes reflect Tilda Swinton's essence? And I've tried to kind of break it into elements that you can kind of see how you could recreate it. So if you also have ethereal and dramatic essence, you might want to incorporate some of these elements into your look without literally copying her outfits, because obviously she's dressed as a snow queen in a fantasy film, which I don't know, but I don't think any of you are snow queens. So I'm going to try and adjust it to see how you could take inspiration from her into your everyday life. So firstly, fur. She wears this white, it's supposed to look like a real fur that she drapes over her shoulders, and obviously the significance of this is there's something quite dangerous to fur because there's almost the implication that she's killed the animal, she's wearing the fur. This is like a fantasy realm. It's not been produced on a factory line for Shein. And so there's something really dangerous about that that's really powerful. Also, it works for dramatic essence because it's kind of bold and strong, and that reflects that kind of dangerous feel. For ethereal, it's kind of like a very light colour, so it also has that angelic touch to it. Her low contrast colours. There is obviously a balance. Let's say you were winter, but you also had ethereal essence. There is a balance of how you mix your kind of high contrast colour season with your low contrast essence, but that's almost a topic for another video. In fact, I think I talk about it in this video, which is all about contrast. But she has low contrast colours in this film. She has ice added to her eyelashes to, again, lower that contrast even more. She has very light hair, very light skin. She wears very light clothing. And all of this almost adds that uncanny appearance. But low contrast is particularly good for ethereals because it echoes the gentle elements of their facial features. And this kind of continues with the icy palette. These aren't just low contrast, they're like whites, greys, and actually she wears almost the same thing throughout the film, but in different kind of low contrast shades, depending on the scenario, except for the last few scenes where she changes to the gold outfit. This video is sponsored by you guys. I have an incredible community, Style Scholars. Each month they tip me for my videos and newsletters. Every week they get a paid section in my weekly newsletter where I answer their questions and do little deep dives, and also each week we have a chat, and on this chat each week, or as often as I can, we do an outfit review where they send me the outfits of the week and ask me my thoughts, and I tell them what I think. So if you want to get my opinion on your personal style, that's a really, really great way to do that. And also it's a great place to ask questions for people who also watch my videos, and I do extra videos, live streams on occasion, and it's just a really fun place. So if you enjoy these videos and you'd like to deep dive into your personal style a little bit more, that could be the place to do it. And so I think if you have ethereal essence, these kind of icy shades, almost angelic shades, work really nicely for you. And I feel like the almost cooler version kind of works because of her dramatic features. So it's kind of like a harsher version of these ethereal shades. Her sparkly pale makeup. This kind of goes into what we're saying, but I feel like if you have ethereal, adding a little bit of shimmer, like her eyelids almost look wet, like they're covered in like a thin layer of frost, and I think that's really, really clever, and I love that. And I think you could kind of take inspiration with that with like a sparkly silver or something, like just something a little bit almost liquidy, just with a little bit of sheen to your features to kind of bring that otherworldliness into your makeup look. I feel like makeup is a really great way to root yourself in your essences because it's kind of like the first thing people will see about your features. Let's talk about her tiara. Now, you're not going to wear a nice tiara on a day-to-day basis, but I think this works really, really well for her because it has those long lines, which echo the long lines of her frame. It has sharp points, which echo the sharp lines in her bone structure, like her cheeks, but also it has that crystal element, which is very ethereal. Ethereals look really good in crystals, like crystal jewellery, and I think you could pull that into your look somehow. So it could be like crystal earrings, a crystal necklace, kind of echoing those long and sharp points, but also mimicking the texture of crystal somehow in your clothing through sheer fabrics, something with a little shimmer. I think that works really, really well. Her long hair echoes the long lines in her facial features and in her bone structure. The braided, it's not quite braided, it's like dreadlocks, but braided hair generally has a very ethereal feel. I will say the dreadlocks lean a little natural. They're more kind of what you'd expect in a natural essence. And she also pulls on natural essence a little bit in her last look, which she doesn't have. She doesn't have natural. But in her last look with she's kind of got fur, like it's like a lion's, I guess it is it Aslan's mane? Is that canon? It looks like it could be Aslan's mane, but it's kind of like she wears fur all around her. And so I find it really interesting when they've pulled from natural essence that she doesn't have. If anything, I think it intensifies her dramatic features even more and makes her look even sharper because she doesn't have the width in her frame for that. So I think it makes her look even sharper and really pulls that dramatic element out of her features. I find the print on her dress really interesting. It looks really, really natural. It looks like almost she's a part of the landscape, which I find really, really beautiful. And I think you could find similar textures. I feel like a jacquard print would actually almost create this effect, like a really, really subtle one. But yeah, that kind of almost looks like the ground. I think it's really, really beautiful. In the original dress, she's got this really, really stiff bodice. And I feel that you could echo this with corsetry, kind of corset wear. This kind of silhouette we've been seeing a lot on the runway actually the past few years, and it's very avant-garde, it's very cool, and I think there are ways you could pull it in, like again, maybe with a more stiff kind of structured skirt. I feel like the kind of metallic corsets we're seeing, which look like a woman's chest, I feel like those would almost create that kind of stiff structured feel, and this echoes again the sharpness in her look. So I think you could pull this metallic in through obviously metallic earrings. I think something that would work quite well is kind of like those almost like flat earrings. I'm thinking about Oriem. I've been obsessed with Oriem ever since I watched Grace Beverley's interview with the founder. I so want to get some of those earrings. They completely overwhelm me, but I'm in love with the concept of what they do. But those kind of flat, it's like rectangle, I don't know how to describe it, like those flat long earrings would be a great way to pull in like planes of metal into your outfit, kind of like the tiara that she wears. I also feel like hammered metal bangles would work really, really well. What I really like about the tiara is it's got lots of like sharp lines and sharp shapes, so I'm thinking about ways you could like pull that into your outfit. I feel like cuffs generally would work really, really well, and also necklaces as well with like planes of metal are really, really ethereal but with a lot of sharpness. You see how they kind of have that softness, that otherworldly feel because of the sparkle of them, and they almost look like they could come from heaven, but they also have sharp lines and sharp edges. And the last detail is chain or metal. I feel like in Narnia, the last look, she's wearing chainmail. Obviously, she's in battle. You and I probably aren't going to wear chainmail. But I almost feel like something like this jumper, now that I'm looking at it, would create that similar effect of... In fact, this is a great example where it almost looks like I'm wearing chainmail because of the little bit of sparkle. Yeah, so something like that. But also there are other ways to incorporate chains, like a chain necklace, for instance. Chain bracelets. I think as long as you're not leaning too chunky and you're leaning kind of more thinner chains, I think that's a really great piece of inspiration that you could take from her looks in Narnia. So I just wanted to show you some ways she incorporates some of these elements into her outfits outside of Narnia, outside of the fantasy realm, when she's on a red carpet. Again, these are going to be more elevated than I expect your looks to be in day-to-day life, but I just wanted to show you a lot of these motifs in different contexts. So you can see she often incorporates metallic, and in fact this first dress I feel is almost like chainmail. This is like a great example of creating a look that almost looks like chain through sequin. It has the long lines, which echoes her long vertical line. She's got a tight neck, which echoes the narrowness in her shoulders. I feel that that sequin is very dramatic. It's a little bit ethereal, but a sequin is a part of dramatic essence as well, where it's kind of bold and loud and like quite intense. So it incorporates that element. And also, if you think about it, sequins are hard. They're actually not soft. They've got like a hard plane to them. So that's the dramatic element, but the sparkle is very ethereal. And those long lines is also very ethereal, as is that fabric, which is long but soft. This is just another look. I don't think this look works particularly well for her vertical or her straight lines particularly, but Tilda Swinton is very avant-garde and she will break a lot of the like style rules to create something that's interesting and unique. But these shoes, again, these incorporate metallic, like the crown that she wears in Narnia. That's very like smooth metal. They almost look hard, and they have that narrow point as well, which echoes sharpness. The shine of the fabric is also very ethereal. It's very soft, it's very flowy, but ultimately the line is long. And also these jewels, they almost look like ice. They kind of incorporate an icy element. Now, I'm not saying she's echoing her looks on Narnia. I just want to show how these elements work for her, both in the fantasy realm and not. Structured fabrics, like that structured dress. Tilda will often wear structured fabrics, often with low contrast colours, so she's honouring both that dramatic element and her ethereal. In this first look, I love this blazer because ultimately it's very structured, like with the strong shoulders and the overall stiff fabric, but you can see it incorporates elements of softness for her ethereal through that kind of ruching around the chest, which isn't like really tight ruching like you'd expect for roundness, but it adds a little bit of gentleness to the look, which I think is really, really nice. And those colours are very soft, very neutral. They're not too contrasted from each other. And the shoes, again, have that narrow point at the end. This look, this green suit, I really, really love. Again, it's just got a little bit of structured fabric. It's low contrast because it's all monochromatic and it's quite light colours. I think that looks great. And I've talked about low contrast a lot, but she wears a lot of low contrast pieces where she'll wear only one colour, which is monochromatic. It also is quite good for vertical line. When I talk about like breaking the line through colour, it's not one of like the top priorities for me if I was talking to someone about their personal style. Lots of people get really caught up on breaking the line and colour, and for me, I don't think it's that important. I think honouring your silhouette is more important, but it is like the next step of total finesse. So that low contrast helps with her long vertical line. It helps create that ethereal feel because it's kind of soft and gentle. And you can see it with a light colour, but also with a darker colour, which I think really adds the drama back into the look because it adds some contrast with her light colouring and more echoes the sharpness in her look. It's got the vibe of dramatic essence. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I love Tilda Swinton, I love Narnia. I think it's an amazing film, and I think the costumes have an incredible attention to detail that I really love. I would like to make a video on Maleficent, who was another fantastic Disney villain and a really great Disney live action. So if you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comments. I think in some ways it could be a similar video. Ultimately, I would love to know if you'd be interested in seeing that. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.